When it comes to gacha games that solely rely on original IPs, China dominates the market. Titles like Genshin Impact, Azurland, Arknights, Girls Frontline, and Honkai Impact all stand their own ground in the greater gacha marketplace, with the most successful of them carving their own place in the mainstream cultural zeitgeist. However, the Chinese gacha industry could have been completely different from how it was today if it wasn't for the ever-changing relationship between two former friends. The year is 2008. Our first main character is a college student named Huang Chong, or how I will refer to him for the rest of the video, Yuzong, an animation major and one-third of the Dojin Circle Mica team, notable for the fairly successful visual novel Girl in the Bakehouse. However, that's not the only thing Mica team will produce. Over the next few years, they create a bunch of dojins for popular series such as Toho. During this time, Yuzong talks a lot on a dojin developer forum and befriends its owner, our other main character, Yao Meng. Yao Meng was also a college student at this time, and I couldn't really find much more about him. Yuzong and Yao Meng would form a partnership and sell a fan magazine about the Chinese Dojin gaming scene under the Mica team name. Unfortunately, the fame and recognition of Mica team was not enough to entice sales of the magazine, and it failed. It's now 2011. Yao Meng shuts down his Dojin developer forum and he founds his own company, Game Master. Yuzong and Mica team releases their Gunning Girls art book, a book full of guns from all around the world anthropomorphizes anime girls. Yuzong loves his art book and wants to do more. He wants to remake his old visual novel from 2008, Girl in the Bakehouse, but not just a remake, more of a reimagining. He wanted to make a strategy game, however Mica team were not programmers, so he needed to find the help from somebody outside the Dojin circle. Thankfully, he knows a guy who just created a new company that might be open to work with him. 2 years pass, and the project is released to success, and is everything Yuzong wants it to be. A heavily rewritten and expanded upon version of Girl in the Bakehouse that combines the TRPG, stealth, survival, and visual novel genres. This project is the semi-obscure cult classic codenamed Bakery Girl. Things were looking great for Yao Meng and Yuzong, and they were living it good. They shared a rented villa together and were the best of friends. Their new game did so well it was now time for them to just relax for a bit. But as time moved on, Mica team and Game Master drifted apart. It's 2014 now, and gacha games are the new big thing. This year, Grand Blue Fantasy has launched, and we're a year away from Fate Grand Order, and Cancel has already established itself as the king of the gacha marketplace. The gacha at the time were flash-based, and Yuzong saw the opportunity to fill the niche of gacha games for mobile devices. He calls up his old buddy, Yao Meng, and they start going through ideas.
Gentlemen, I have a completely original idea for a mobile game that can corner both the Eastern and Western markets. What is the number one thing that all people love? That's right, it's warships. And what's the second thing that all people love? Yup, girls. So what if we took the ships that people like and turned them into hot anime waifus? I call it Warship Girls. And here's the best part. The players will have to pay us for a slim chance at obtaining the waifus that they want. And they need to do this in order to expand their collection, their Warship Girl collection. No need to applaud, no need to applaud. The idea just came to me in a dream. What about the gameplay? What about the gameplay?
Unfortunately for Yao, the whole thing was a sham. Yuzong wasn't really listening to his pitch. Instead, he already had plans to continue the story of Bakery Girl and combine it with the Guns and Girls art book. Yao wasn't pleased with this, but there was nothing he could possibly do since Yuzong and his team was the ones responsible for the game and character design. However, there were some rumblings from the members of Game Master, and some of them left the project to form their own company, Moe Fantasy. They then quickly went to work on the project that Yao pitched to Yuzong. Later that year, Moe Fantasy released their Ship Girl gacha game, Warship Girls, to much success. A year goes by, and the cumulative ideas of Bakery Girl and Guns and Girls becomes a concept for a little gacha game known as Girls Frontline. But for some reason, the game wasn't getting picked up by any publisher that was pitched to. Eventually, Yao Meng and Yuzong had an epiphany. Why can't they just develop and publish the game themselves? With that revelation, Mica team was Digimine upgraded to Sunborn, and Game Master was retrofitted into Array Networks technology. They were to split the profits 50-50, just like the old days with codename Bakery Girl. The plan was that Sunborn would be the ones to actually work on the game, while Array Network Technologies would do the publishing and running the servers. Over the next 2 years, Girls Frontline has 2 closed betas, both received well. However, the second beta was plagued with server issues, the biggest issue being that the servers were down for 8 whole hours when it launched. Early 2016, Girls Frontline Beta 3 launches. Except, it didn't. Servers crashed immediately once again. People were disappointed, but hey, it can't be that bad. The fans will get to play the game in a few hours, everything will be fine. A day passes, servers aren't back up. A week passes, still no servers. It took a total of 9 whole days for the servers to get back online. Array Network was unprepared to deal with this network issue. They had no backup plan. But how could they? They were dealing with a completely unknown issue that has never appeared in any of the previous testing. Tension was also brewing between the Sunborn and Array partnership. Sunborn would poorly communicate what the code of the game was for, forcing Array to work with random bits of undocumented code. Array wouldn't get Sunborn sufficient player data, preventing them from polishing the game. And while they squabbled among themselves, bigger fish saw the potential of Girls Frontline, and they started working to take it for themselves. These big fish being Zinfan Asset Management, a private equity firm based in Shanghai, and their publishing partner, Digital Sky. They approached Array Network Technology and failed to negotiate a buyout, so they then turned to Sunborn and attempted to steal them from Array. Sunborn was the one actually making the game, so if they can't buy the publisher, just steal the talent. Sunborn actually considers Zinfan's offer, and who wouldn't at this point? They were already sending their own network specialists to help the servers when things went off, while Array was struggling to barely fix the issues themselves. To make a long, complex story about company politics short, Sunborn eventually signed with Zinfan, and Digital Sky becomes the distributor of Girls Frontline. However, Array claims that they were not completely out of the picture yet. A few months passed and the difference between Yuzong and Yao Meng's company couldn't be any more different. Girls Frontline released in late May of that year to critical and commercial success, while Array was closing the doors for good. But this didn't stop Yao Meng. Right after Array's closure, Yao Meng found his new company, Yostar Limited. Like always, he was looking for a way to collaborate with his good friend Yuzong. This time, it was finding a way to break Girls Frontline out of the Chinese market, the first goal being a Japan release. Things were going great. It seemed like finally, since codename Baker Girl, Yao Meng and Yuzong would find success together. Until Yuzong finds about a studio in Japan that could bring the game to Japan right away. He doesn't have to wait for Yostar Japan to fully incorporate, and who knows how long that could take to happen, and will Girls Frontline even be relevant if they waited till that long? So Yuzong signs with the Japanese studio instead of waiting for Yostar Japan to exist, but apparently Yuzong was not strong in his conviction to leave Yao behind again, since he was convinced to cancel the contract. However, Yao's contact in Japan soon became unresponsive, so Yostar Japan didn't seem like it was coming anytime soon. In desperation, Yao sold the marketing rights of Girls Frontline to another studio in Japan, the same studio that Yao Meng convinced Yuzong not to sign with earlier. And all this happened without Sunborn ever being notified. They were completely in the dark about Yostar's plight and the subcontracting of their IP. But the studio was struggling and went bankrupt by the time the deal with Yostar happened, and they needed Girls Frontline Japan to be a success to stay open. But it didn't release right away, and the company shut down. And ever since, the rights to use the name Girls Frontline in Japan has been stuck in limbo, attached to a defunct company that lost the time. After using up the last goodwill between the two in that last incident, Yao Meng was all alone once again. While Yuzong reveled in success, Yao wanted to be in the gaming scene badly. He truly wanted to succeed. And a year later, he saw his next chance when a new small game about worship girls launched. Azure Lane was created by two small developers, Manju and Yangshi Limited. They wanted their little worship girl game to be different and stand out when compared to its competition, like Cancol or Worship Girls. So, instead of going for the turn-based system that every other worship girl game has, they opted for the shooter style that Azure Lane is now known for. Yao Meng saw the opportunity and quickly negotiated Japanese publishing rights with them. And in September of that year, Azure Lane came to Japan to extreme commercial success, with estimates of the year one revenue of the Japanese server being around $97.5 million, which is around 75% of the game's total profits. This gave Yostar an extremely prestigious reputation in the gacha industry, as their first release was such a resounding success. Meanwhile, Yuzong talks with Liu Wei, also known as Da Wei, of MiHoYo, another Chinese gacha game dev, notable for their work on the Honkai Impact series. Their meeting was friendly and leads to a collab between their currently running games, Honkai Impact 2 and Girls Frontline. This creates a friendly relationship between the two developers, and I couldn't find much more about their interactions, and I can't find the Honkai 2 x Girls Frontline stream that they did together. By 2018, everyone could see that Yostar and Azure Lane were the very peak of original IP gacha games. Everyone includes some of the members of Yuzong's company Sunborn. This is Hai Miao, also known as Umineko or Lowlight. He was the art director for Girls Frontline during development and the creator of the main team of Girls Frontline. He is also quite a prolific character designer, having tons of OCs and doujin works in his Pixiv. It's been 2 years since Girls Frontline's launch, and Lowlight has had enough of Mica team and leaves Sunborn. On paper, he left because of creative differences, but on friendly terms. However, since this is Mica team we're talking about, there's tons of rumors and hearsay that suggest that the reason why Lowlight left was not as simple, and not on the friendliest of terms. With some other former Sunborn staff, Lowlight forms Hypergryph network technology with the help of Yao Meng. Hypergryph would work on the first project in early 2018. But something seemed off. Yostar quickly invested and spent a lot of funds on raising up Hypergryph and their first project, to the point where people started to think that maybe the reason why Yostar picked them up was not only because they saw the potential monetary opportunity. Maybe there might be another, more petty reason why. But regardless of the reason, a year later Arknights would be released to the public, and it blew everything else to the water, and became the new peak of Chinese gacha games. But as Hypergryph was enjoying success, the man who started it wasn't, as by the time the first anniversary of Arknights came around, Lowlight had lost all his shares in Hypergryph to Yostar. Yao Meng was forced to take the company away from him due to the investor-unfriendly decisions Lowlight was making. In the course of a year, Lowlight went from the creative head to the next big thing to nothing more than a figurehead. Even with the in-house problems, Arknight was the big thing, and it became the most successful gacha with its own original IP of all time. It was, until a new king rose, as during all this time, MiHoYo was making another IP for the new gacha game, Genshin Impact. Development started back in 2017, back when Dawei was talking with Yuzong about Honkai 2 and Girls Frontline. A combination of many factors caused Genshin Impact to absolutely shatter the Chinese gacha scene in 2020, with its resounding mainstream success. And that was most of the development tales I could find. But this still leaves things a bit feeling incomplete. At the current state of the evolving story, where are they now? I couldn't dig up much information about Yao Meng or Dawei, but Yao's company, Yostar, has been under fire recently in China for some controversy about donations and shrines, but it's nothing too big. And MiHoYo is just reveling in the successes of Genshin Impact. Things have been getting better for Lowlight. Last time I heard, he has gotten some of his shares back, but he still controls less than 10% of Hypergryph. Yuzong's game is by far the least profitable game of this bunch. Girls Frontline's revenue is dwarfed by the likes of Azure Lane, Arknights, and definitely by Genshin's. However, I'm pretty sure Yuzong's the one having the most fun out of everyone mentioned. The guy is like a real life Seto Kaiba. He recently had a whole convention for the 5th anniversary of Girls Frontline. What other indie game does a whole convention for itself? Along with that, he developed an interesting strategy when it comes to business deals and collabs. And that strategy is, I like this piece of media. Can we get the right to do a collab and make money off a fanfic? The prime example of this was when he resurrected Gunslinger Girl, since it was the inspiration for Girl in the Bakehouse. That is more or less the story of the Chinese gacha game scene. Everybody's connected and a lot of people have wronged each other.